We were surprised at how fast cars replace horses as the main means of transport in the early 1900s, says IMF economist Fuad Hassanov. It happened in only 10 to 15 years despite the many hurdles. By comparison, the barriers of adopting electric vehicles today seem small. Experts say we are in the midst of the biggest automotive revolution since Henry Ford's first production line started running back in 1913, and it's likely to happen a lot faster than you do to imagine. Many industry watchers believe we've already passed the tipping point, where sales of electric vehicles will overwhelm gasoline and diesel cars very quickly. This is certainly what the world's major automakers think. Jaguar plans to sell only electric cars from 2025. Volvo from 2030, and last week UK sports car company Lotus said it would follow suit, selling only electric models from 2028. And it is not just high-end brands. General Motors says it will only manufacture electric vehicles by 2035. Ford says all vehicles sold in Europe will be electric by 2030, and Volkswagen says 70% of its sales will be electric by 2030. Yes, the fact that many governments worldwide are setting targets to ban the sale of gasoline and diesel vehicles gives impedance to the process. But what makes the end of the internal combustion engine inevitable is a technological revolution. And technological revolutions tend to happen very quickly. For pessimists, the electric vehicle revolution looks disappointing, and this is because they underestimate the power of exponential growth. Optimists don't demand instant results from innovation. On the contrary, they recognise how sudden technological transformation can be. Companies will only realise the full potential of electric vehicles for a few moments before throwing gasoline cars into the trash of history. Today, electric vehicles represent less than 0.5% of the global vehicle fleet. But Bloomberg NEF predicts that by 2040, electric vehicles will account for more than half of all passenger vehicles and light commercial vehicle sales. Electric vehicles could become cheaper than their combustion engine counterparts in just 3 to 5 years, as the cost of lithium-ion batteries is dropping so quickly. This could cause a tipping point accelerated by the fact that traditional gasoline cars cannot meet the stringent environmental regulations adopted around the world. People who drive electric vehicles tout their environmental friendliness, superior performance, and reduced maintenance requirements. Along with a series of recent commitments to electric vehicles by governments and automakers, the study offers hope for the prospects of weaning the transport sector from its carbon emissions. Out of more than 1 billion registered vehicles in circulation today, only 2 million are electric. But if electric vehicles spread as quickly as researchers project, it could reduce oil consumption by 21 million barrels per day and CO2 emissions by 3.2 billion tonnes per year, or the equivalent of 60% of total US emissions today. Other studies predict slower deployment, although the newer ones tend to be more aggressive. Bloomberg New Energy Finance recently increased its estimate of the electric vehicle market share in 2040 from 35% of all new car sales to 54%. Rethinks, an independent think tank, is even more optimistic, saying most American vehicles will be electric by 2030. Governments are joining them. Norway will ban the sale of cars and vans running on fossil fuels in 2025. Governments of the UK and the Netherlands and France have pledged the same by 2040. Germany, home of Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz and Porsche, talk about a similar ban. China has just announced that it will also ban gasoline and diesel vehicle sales, although it has not yet set a timetable. China is the world's largest automaker, selling 20 million vehicles a year, and it already has more than 40 different electric vehicles, most of which are made by Chinese companies. Last May, India's Energy Minister, Piyush Goyal, predicted that only electric vehicles will be sold in India by 2030, even without government restrictions, because they are cleaner, quieter, more durable and cheaper. According to Albert Chayung, an analysis at Bloomberg in China and India, but also in Western Europe, air pollution is the biggest reason to switch to electricity. Conversely, any reduction in the government's commitment to tackling air pollution could slow the adoption of electric vehicles. The same goes for the very cheap gas prices and the lack of investment in recharging infrastructure. Stanford economist Tony Seba takes the vision of an electric vehicle revolution a step further. He says it will happen in the 2020s and be self-sustaining. In a new study, Rethinking Transportation 2020 to 2030, SEBA and colleagues in Rethinkix claimed that 95% of all passenger kilometres will be flown in autonomous electric vehicles by 2030. How is this possible? First, SEBA assumes that electric vehicles will be much cheaper to buy than they are today due to falling battery costs and being easier to manufacture and maintain. Only 20 moving parts compared to 2,000 for gasoline or diesel vehicles. Today's electric vehicles have driven over 200,000 miles and all they needed were a new set of tyres, says SEBA. A Tesla S has driven 500,000 miles on the same battery. Second, according to SEBA, most vehicles will not be owned by individuals but by transport companies. Commercial fleets are hungry for electric vehicles, especially autonomous vehicles, and eliminating drivers could generate substantial cost savings for UPS and FedEx, Uber and Lyft. Taxis and autonomous commercial vehicles are being tested in Pittsburgh, Phoenix, Boston and Singapore, Dubai and Wuhan, China. Electric vehicles are 4 times more energy efficient and less expensive in fuel. The autonomous could be even better. What do you think is going to be the future of cars? Let us know your views in the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Thank you for watching the video.